Welcome back. How are you, Philippa? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you back virtually again, which is our norm, but having had a little get together face to face last week. But it's nice to get back into our usual situation, but it was really nice to connect actually in person. So, hi.
It really was. It really was. And obviously, we're pre-recording this. So when this actually goes out, it will have been a few weeks, but it's great to meet in person. Philippa and I were just reminiscing that we've known each other not even 2 years. And yet when we see each other, only for the second time, it feels as though we've known each other forever. And this is a regular thing that we did every week. So that in-person connection is so, so important, especially in this day and age when we do so much through a screen.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we've got, again, another guest on our podcast today. So, Ewelina, it's amazing to welcome you in. Our topic for today, so we've got the overall theme of the Series 2 podcasts of being new and how to manage with new. And Ewelina is joining us today to talk about something very new, which is when you're growing a human being and then looking after a human being once they're born. So the whole idea about pregnancy and then, how you translate that into those changes into work, and also then returning to work following pregnancy. So Ewelina, we're really, really pleased to welcome you into our little small lit group today, and for you to share a bit of your experience.
So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's also a pleasure to talk about the topic, which is very close to my heart and totally changed my life.
And so, Ewelina, maybe just to kick us off, talk us through your experience during pregnancy. So, for maybe those early days when you're not telling anybody, and then as the workforce knows, then just tell us a little bit about that context and the experience that you had while still at work.
Yeah, happy to share. So to start the context, between the decision that we want to have the baby and the pregnancy, there was 2.5 years. And you may imagine it's a long time, especially when you try. It's a very, very long time. But early 2021, I learned that because of the big reorg in my organization, I'm losing job. So I need to hunt. So there is a tap on my shoulder that potentially there is a role for me. There is a 10 days open window to do the application. And the second day, I learned I'm pregnant. So it's supposed to be a very, very happy moment, but I don't have a job. And then the dilemma starts. And I'm not sure if you can relate to it, but for me, it was like, am I allowed now to apply for a new job, knowing that there is someone growing inside of me and knowing that I will disappear in a few months' time? And the dilemma was so big that I couldn't submit I couldn't click on the submit button. And I didn't want to share, with anyone except my close man. But I decided to call my former boss and I shared this, and it was quite emotional for me. There was the tears, and she asked a very powerful question. And the question was, Ewelina, what would you do if you had a situation in your team? So someone from your team was pregnant. And then the answer was very easy, because I had 2 girls who reported at that time to me. And for me, it was obvious that they apply for a job and then I find the cover for them. But somehow in my head, I feel guilty that I'm pregnant within this, big change. But I applied, I got the job. And then it was my first trimester finished, so I could share. And then I feel again a lot of guilt that I'm accepting the job, knowing that I'm pregnant. So even though the thing about being pregnant was so important, but with the context of the change in the work, it was very, very stressful for me.
That's amazing.
Really interesting there. Sorry, Philippa, but I was just about to say what was really interesting there was that there was a real coaching moment right at the beginning of this conversation between you and your line manager, where she turned around to you and said, what would you do? Yeah. And that is such a key thing for leaders when they're trying to coach rather than tell you what to do. Sorry, I interrupted there. And I was just like, God, that was a beautiful moment of how leaders should act. Sorry, carry on, Philippa.
No, that was okay. And I was also just going to say, I think it is, like you said, a powerful question, Ewelina. Is it's always really good to hear, if you were giving advice to someone else, what would you say? And you go, oh my God, it's such a revelation to say, well, this is what I would do. So then, therefore, why don't I follow that advice myself? But it's the emotion that's really gets in the way sometimes of that logical thinking. And you talk about guilt. And I think when we worked together, I talked to you about a bit of the guilt thing.
A bit, yes.
A bit. That I remember saying at the time when I remember returning to work after pregnancy, I was talking to my sister with the tears. I recognise that as well. And the best bit of advice she gave to me, which was a little bit, the what you need to hear, but not what you want to hear at the time. She said, you're a mum now and you're going to feel guilty all the time. So the sooner you get used to that, the better. And hearing that helped me normalise a little bit on what's my new normal, which meant that it was a little bit easier to then actually accept okay, that's a normal feeling then. I'll just move on with it because my sister told me. A bit of coaching as well that I received, but that guilt piece really, I think, was always stuck in my head. So thank you, sorry, for sharing that, Ewelina. So talk through a little bit more then. You've had the guilt, you've got the job. Then what happens? What happens next? Is there anything else from the pregnancy side of things that was around setting those expectations?
Well, what you need to understand about me, like job is a very important part for me, like part of my identity. And the year when I was pregnant, it was like a full of change. And I, at that time, led a team of 100+ people. So I felt a huge responsibility for them. So what happened is that I worked a lot. And I remember one specific week when I woke up on Friday and I was like so weak. I mean, like I was sick because the whole week I worked for 10, 12 hours. And then for me, it was like a, aha moment. Hey, maybe you need to reprioritize it. Yeah, because there is someone inside of you. And, my company will not collapse, but probably I will collapse if something happened with the little man growing inside of me. So I think it was like the pregnancy was a part of also changing the priorities. Yeah. So yes, the work is important, but there is something which is even more important, and I just have to really not only say that it's a priority, but also really need to act on it accordingly.
That's really good. That recognition around a change in priorities is really important. So thanks for raising it. So we go forward. You have the beautiful Antosh. You're completely absorbed by his wonder. And then comes the time that you're then looking at return to work. So how did you feel about that return to work? And what about sort of expectations you had on yourself and of the workplace maybe as well? Just maybe talk a little bit more around, those feelings as you were looking at return to work.
So there are like two elements. First is which role I should return to, because I'm from Poland, so according to the labor law, I have the right to come back to my role, and it was actually a new role because I had it only for 1 month. Or there was another opportunity to be in a new team, new project, but there will be a different role, an individual role. So I had the choice between a leader of community, and the individual role. And I had, again, a dilemma, what to do. And then I called another person. It was my former mentor who I used to work with, a very experienced man. He's male. And then we had the discussion, and he asked me a question. Okay, so Ewelina, what is the most important things that are important for you, in terms of the work? And what the job A will give you and what the job B will give you. And then he even suggested to take a piece of paper, and 2 columns with all the things and pros and cons. And funny enough, I recently found this piece of paper.
I love that. I love that. Keeping hold of these steps so you can look at them in the future is so precious.
Yeah. And actually, when I look at this piece of paper, there was much more on the job leader, and my whole heart was for this job. there was one specific element which was on the other part, which was work-life balance. Because I know what the job leader was actually connected to, and it was a lot of firefighting, no stabilization, and I didn't know how the world will look like with a baby. So at that moment, the most important part for me was the balance. So I decided to go for the second job. But again, there was someone who guided me through questions. What decision to make.
That's very helpful.
And I think that's sort of our key purpose in life, isn't it, Philippa, as coaches and as mentors, to create that safe space for critical thinking, to allow you to look at things objectively and take some of the emotion out of it, but know that if the emotion's there, this is safe. You can allow it to come wash through you and then help you find the answers that you need. And it's not for us to judge. It's not for us to give you the answers. They're inside you. It's just about asking the right questions in a way that gets the best for you, which is just fantastic. And it is difficult, isn't it, going back to work? I remember I had a job at the time when I went back to work after both my children, and I was out on the road and I was traveling, and I was like, I don't want to be doing this. I want something different, because it's taking me away from this new life that I've formed that's so precious. And you talked there, Ewelina, about finding a role that gave you balance. And the foresight of that, bearing in mind, prior to children, your identity had been with work, your word. It was my identity. Now all of a sudden has shifted. And that creates a real dilemma in the head, because everything that you've been for all those years has now changed, and you are a mum, you are a mummy, and that's your new identity. And you were very, very smart to choose balance. I applaud you for that. So well done.
Yeah, but there is like more to that. Yeah, because Philippa asked about the process of coming back to work. So first was choosing the job, but the second was really coming to job. And to be honest, I was really, really looking forward to going to work. Yeah? I love my son. It's love of my life. But I cannot say that staying at home was the best year of my life. Yeah, I love control. I'm an achiever. So maybe I did master, the ability to change diapers. I know everything about the child development, but I didn't really thrive. So I was looking forward to return to job. But on the other hand, there was a piece of self-confidence. Yeah? I'm in Poland. We are very lucky. We can be away up to a year. So I used the full year. So I was away for a year, and I was returning with again, like some emotions. Do I still know how to do things? I mean, like, what will I be able to give, to the people that I work with? I was away for years. Probably they're already miles away from me. So there was a bit of this dilemma. Is I want to, but I felt insecurity. And to be honest, at this moment, I didn't really think about how I will combine everything with my child. But then something just hit me, and it was my second day when I had to go to the office. And I was just about, leaving my house. Was very early. And then I heard my son crying. And I knew that he was crying because I wasn't there. At the time I was, breastfeeding. So, your child, when he wakes up because he's happy and ready to play, and when he's waking up just to be next to you. And it hit me. And it hit me so much. I didn't expect it. And I was on my way to work, and I started to cry, which was, again, unexpected. And I was, reaching to the office, and I said to myself, Ewelina, pull yourself together. No one can see you like this. And then suddenly, unfortunately, I think that was she, my boss, my new boss, which I get to know her the day before for the first time with a cup of coffee. She just looked at me and he said, do you want a hug? And I said, yes. And then we had a talk. Fortunately, she was a mother, so she could give me, share some experience. And this experience that you heard earlier in this podcast, because it was Philippa. So that was the moment when we talked about this guilt. And I still remember, Philippa, this is what you shared, that the guilt will be just part of my life. And the second one was, your baby will be okay.
Yeah.
Two very powerful wisdoms that you share with me at that day, difficult day for me.
Yeah, certainly was an emotional day. I remember as well, because it brings back the emotions that I remember feeling. And I think when we talked, it was a lot about sort of the empathy side as well, which again, from a coaching point of view, there's an element of empathy that you need to have to understand where there's challenges and be non-judgmental about those as well. So accepting, what you're feeling is what you're feeling. And then how do we make sure that we can pull through those emotions and remembering that you're brilliant, whoever we talk to as a coach, generally they're brilliant at what they do. It's just about switching a little bit on the mindset and just dialing up a bit on that confidence side. So you had some expectations, you were raring to go back to work, and then you had a bit of the emotion again that hit. Was there anything else that was sort of better or worse than expectations in that return to work?
I think like the choice of the job was really good, like because I could really manage well my working schedule, but still something that I didn't expect, and it was more difficult to like focus entirely on job. So for example, it was 4 p.m. my son coming back from the nursery, and I could hear his hands on the door. So that was okay, should I finish or should I go to him? And that was also like a kind of the dilemma in terms of the priority. Coming back to, again, work was always very important to me, but then there was someone who was even more important than.
Yeah.
So that was difficult than I expected. I thought it would be more. It would be just smoother, and I didn't expect all this, emotions and dilemmas.
And maybe just thinking and playing it forward a little bit, Ewelina, as well, because it's a heightened emotion time as you return to work, I believe, because you're coming in with new expectations, new priorities. You're spread much thinner than you were previously. Then if you continue on your return to work journey, because it does continue on, sort of where are you now? And if you look at my immediate return, what are the things that maybe you've learned a little bit along the way, and I guess the confidence levels. So you mentioned a bit about the confidence of, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to slot back in, add the value that I want to? How has that played out sort of a year or two later?
So now retrospectively, it's quite funny. It's quite funny to think about the times that I didn't have the self-confidence. Because normally I don't have a problem. At least people that I work with, they don't see it. Yeah. So it was actually a nice experience to learn. Oh, I still have it. But what is important, and I also remember, Philippa, that this is the advice you gave to me: just be kind to yourself. That it's also an journey. So that was I'm like now in a completely different place. But what also has changed is the way, for example, now I speak with women who return from maternity, because again, for me, it was a big surprise. I never talked to anyone about it earlier, even with my sister, with my colleagues. So then it was like, and then I started to talk about it, and it learned that all of them, they went through the same story. And I was like, we never talk about it. Yeah. So now when I, for example, speak to someone who is returning from maternity leave, I'm like sharing, because I remember when I returned, I had this feeling, and majority of them don't even have to say a word, because you see the body language and you see that this is exactly the struggle that they have. Yeah. So I think what also changed is that I have now more empathy. I understand it better. And, the way I see this, maybe I can help with sharing a bit. Yeah. That this is the process, and you will be okay. Yeah. Just take a bit of time.
That is just amazing. And for me, when you were talking then, it brought me back to the start of our conversation where we were saying about Philippa and I meeting up and we feel that contact. You talked there about human contact, sharing and coaching your fellow colleagues that are coming back to work. It's that body language and that empathy. And in this world at the minute where everything is driven either through a screen, we're talking a lot about AI, it's that person-to-person piece that is going to win through whatever this changing world is going to look like in the next 5 or 10 years. And again, that's that whole coaching piece, whether it's just to a colleague about the situation they're in. So in your situation, it was about return to work. For us, it's obviously a lifestyle choice, a job choice. Lots of women are now talking to each other about menopause. And in some future episodes that we've got coming on, we're going to be talking about burnout, but from a male perspective. So it's been wonderful to talk to you today, Ewelina. Thank you so much. I could talk to you all day and find out more, and I hope we get another opportunity, which will be lovely. But Philippa, from your perspective, we always like to end on a message. So what do you think our message is for today?
Apart from thank you very much, Ewelina, for sharing your experience and so openly. As well with your two coaches in the room, this safe psychological space. Just hearing from you, I think the message is recognise the new in managing pregnancy as well as the return to work. And it is about sort of setting that new normal, going with the emotions. I think what you said as well about asking yourself the questions that you would ask somebody else and then seeing whether your response would be different, and making sure that you can navigate that return to work with confidence and the impact, finding your rhythm again from a professional perspective as well as from a personal perspective, and knowing you will be okay and your baby will be okay as well. So thank you very much, Ewelina. Really appreciate your time and sharing your experience with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. It was lovely to speak to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Philippa, I'll see you again very soon.
Cheers.